out. Bellissimo! Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. I want you to take a look at the car in front of you. Maybe you can figure out what it is. Don't feel bad if you don't recognize it, because no one has ever seen this car before. This badge might give you a little bit of a hint. Touring Superleggera. It was built in Italy. It is a coach-built car. As it stands right now, this is the only one there is. It is a beautiful design. We'll find out the car that it's based on and how it is built. You know, back in the 20s and 30s, coach-built cars were all the rage. People would go in and they'd buy a chassis from any one of the major manufacturers, and they would have a custom body put on. And that's what this is, you know, with modern manufacturing techniques. It's fun to see this coming back, that people can design and build a car for them or have it built for them. The gentleman who designed this car, a very talented man, you know, he's got a beautiful last name. I'm going to screw it up. I'm going to call him Louis. And as soon as he comes in, he'll tell you his name. Louis, come on in, my friend. Nice work. Now say your name.
Hello.
It's a beautiful name.
Louis the Fabribeckers.
See that? It's so good it almost sounds Italian, but it's Belgium?
That's right.
Belgium, okay, very nice. Well, just beautiful. Let's tell people what car this is based on.
Well, this is based on a Maserati Gran Turismo. We plan to do maximum 10 cars.
Right.
As every year, in fact, we present a new coach-built car, which will be made in a very small, limited series. This is our core business, in fact, since more than 90 years now, and this is how it works. This is haute couture.
Yeah. Now, in the old days, cars were built on a chassis, and you could bolt things on a chassis. It was fairly straightforward. It must be very hard now to design a custom car with all the electronics and unibody construction. Is all much more difficult now than it was back in the day?
Well, indeed, the concept is more or less the same. There is one more step, which is strip off the existing car to go back into the chassis, the essence of the car, the mechanics, the bones, I would say. And then we can rebuild the car. Due to, yes, homologation and also level of quality, our clients are used to have a very luxury daily car. So they expect to get a one-off or a coach-built car which get this level of quality. Thanks to the softwares now, we can do a lot of testing through computers, through the software. We don't have, fortunately, to do crash tests, real crash tests. We can do it virtually. We can check the aerodynamics. We can check even the torsion of the chassis thanks to the computers.
But you don't change the basic structure of the car. When you get a Ferrari or Maserati or a Rolls Royce, whatever it might be, that has been crash tested. I mean, you're not shortening wheelbases or doing anything of that nature, right?
Exactly.
You're just more or less putting the suit on the man. You're not changing the man, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you're just putting, so you're making a beautiful suit of clothes.
It's exactly our job, in fact. We don't change the structure, and it's all the visible part that we change. I'll give you an example. The visible part in common with the Maserati Gran Turismo are the windscreen and the handles. That's it. All the other panels are completely bespoke, made for this car.
And is it done more modern fashion or the old school way with the...
Old school, obviously.
Obviously.
There is no reason to create huge tools for just such a small series of cars. And I think that our clients are also looking for that, for this concept of haute couture, where there is people, the real hands, which will really build the car.
And it must be nice to see young men doing this kind of work, because I have some cars in there that we had bodies with, and the men are all 85 years old, and you know, and you go, it's so frightening that skill gets lost. But in Italy, they're still training younger people to do this kind of work. It's not all a bunch of guys with hair this color just sitting there having a heart attack, dropping dead. I mean, so it's nice to see. And this is fairly, well, it's not a new concept, but I just see more and more custom cars being built, which is very exciting, and it's wonderful for designers like yourself. Because the platform, do the platforms now lend themselves a little easier to this because of computers and everything?
I think that it's much easier today respect to 10 or 15 years ago. On the other hand, we have to reach quite a level of quality. There is many coach-built car or one-off cars which looks like kit cars.
Right.
Here we stick on quality, and this is a big advantage of Touring Superleggera, that we have design, engineering and construction, everything under the same roof.
All aluminum?
In this case, the door panels are in aluminium and the rest is in carbon fiber.
Oh, carbon fiber.
That's right,
okay.
that's right. It's, I would say it's our very first coach-built car with more than 50% of the body panels in carbon fiber.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now, carbon fiber, is it easier to work with than aluminum or harder for the bodybuilder themselves?
For the designer, maybe it's more difficult because when the wing, the fenders or the bonnet are done, you cannot touch it. I remember the previous coach-built car we did at the very last moment, before the car was pushing in the oven for being painted.
Right.
I was running behind the car saying, could you please move this very little line and change these little details. In carbon fiber, when it's done, it's done. That's right.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, because I was just thinking of the old school bang, 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 you got the wooden buck and all that. But with carbon fiber, you can design it on a computer, can't you?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, let me ask you, as a designer, especially in Italy, in America, I see so many cars designed by computer, and they have all these sharp lines. Italy still, it looks like it's designed by hand, because there's a flowing motion, there's a curve to it. You know what I'm saying? Do you design by hand first and then go to computer?
That's right, exactly. Okay. I design by hand, but there is this, I think it's more the culture linked to the Italy. Italy is the country of the fashion.
Right.
And I think it's the country where you can find the real timeless design, the true timeless design.
Yeah.
It is in fact fascinating to work in Italy. The computer is a tool. You don't have to be eaten by the computer when you are a designer. You need to keep control on your tools. And this is a very important rule. There is in fact some cars where you can see that maybe the designer was a bit eaten by the computer.
Right.
He lost a bit the control. In this case, I love drawing.
Yeah.
I love designing. So that very first part, getting the pencil and making the line on the paper is very important, and I keep that alive.
Like, to people sometimes think, well, a lot of people think everybody else's job is easy. Like, to me, when I see this crease here, this line here, and you realize how many places you could get it wrong. Here you got it exactly right, as it comes over and then goes down here. But if you were down here, it would look weird. If it was up here, it would look weird. But you just have a designer's eyes, so you know. And this is all carbon fiber here.
Right, exactly.
Okay, well, that's fascinating. The trunk lid, carbon fiber?
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And this here?
This is steel.
Steel,
This is
okay.
steel, exactly.
Okay, so
this is steel because it's welded to the chassis, in
Gotcha.
fact. A pillar until C pillar are in steel. And then you have this aluminium element, visible aluminium element, which are linked to our name, Superleggera,
right,
which was one of the very first coach builders using aluminium, thanks to the fact that the aluminium is super light, indeed.
Because that was always, when a racing car was Superleggera, that meant it was lightweight.
Exactly.
Like the Maseratis with the bird cage and all that.
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, okay. Now, obviously you have to cut your own glass as well. Because
right,
this
exactly.
glass does not, you're not taking glass from a Citroën and sticking it in there. No, I mean, you design your own glass.
That's right.
Well, I mean, you know, when you see kit cars, they use pieces from here and pieces from there, and they just look off.
There is always something a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you want to know about good design, look at bad design. And then you realize, oh my God, look how kit cars never sit, they always look odd. They don't look, even the expensive ones, they just look weird because there's no flow to it.
Maybe it's also linked to the fact that we work for this company, which is established since 1926.
Right.
And in terms of design, that company was such an important major actor in the car industry. So today, when we design a car, we cannot do any compromise.
Right.
It has to look perfect.
Right, right. No, and it looks perfect.
So yeah, the rear glass is completely new. Even the side glass, door glass, even the roof glass is completely
See, when I look
bespoke.
when I look at this piece, I would say, was the designer French? That looks French to me.
A bit like I know that kind of car you're thinking
French.
about. Maybe.
Yeah, you know that it looks on DS.
That's right. Exactly.
I see a little bit of French there, and so I mean I see a lot of, and this looks so Italian. And here, the way that right over the trunk here. See, I would never, if I was designing a car, I would never think to put this line here. I would just have a trunk, and I like your imagination here. It's almost like a speed, a power bump in the trunk, as opposed to
it gives a bit of character when you look at
it does.
it
really does.
back.
It really does. Very nice.
And this feature, in fact, is in continuity with the bonnet, which get the same kind of feature.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right here.
That's
the
right.
Same thing.
It's quite subtle. It doesn't have to be too show off. Quite subtle. But then there is this balance between the front and the back.
You know, it's funny. When I was a kid, there was a famous American actor named Edward G. Robinson, and he bought a famous painting, and he put it in his house. He made an alcove with a light, and he would sit every day and have a glass of wine and stare at the painting. And I used to think, well, that's kind of stupid. That's you know, because you're a kid. You know, why would you say? But yet, I can go in my garage, and I could sit down and I could look at this for an hour, and I would see different things each time I looked at it, you know, because you really appreciate the design, you know. The power bulge down here almost gives the impression that there were huge Weber carburetors under there, but we don't have those anymore. But I like the history. I mean, you go in the history of a Maserati-based car.
It's like these details on the front, the aluminium brushed and polished. I was thinking to do these kind of louvers, which doesn't, in terms of techniques, we don't need it on that car. So instead of doing a fake louvers, I say let's try to do something which gives character to the front. And I was thinking to this paint on the Indian face, the war paint, you know, which are very nice, but which gives a true character to the face, like the rugbyman or the football player. They have this kind of sign, and it gives character to the front without being aggressive.
These are your own wheels as well?
No, these wheels were existing pick up from the shelf, and because they had this design which fits so well with the body. You know that it's so important to get the right wheels on the right body.
And we're not going to open the hood of this car because we're not interested in the engine. We're not interested in what's underneath. This is about the design. And that's what's kind of fun, just to go around. And you know, just the history of this badge is so iconic. And I like the fact that you kept it not a modern interpretation of the badge. I like the fact that I see a bit of history and I see it here. That's really, really, really cool. Let's see, what else have we got? Now the inside of the car is just as beautiful. Let's take a look inside and show people what we're talking about. Now I'm not familiar. Is that the basic dash structure?
That's right.
Of the Maserati.
Right, exactly. Sure. Due to homologations, we don't change the dashboard. The dashboard is exactly the same, as well as for the steering wheel. There is these airbags which are homologated, so to re-homologate an airbag is just crazy, and it would be no sense for such a small series. We gave a complete different character to the interior by changing the upper part of the panels, and due to the fact that the belt line it's horizontal now, it had an angle on the Gran Turismo, and now it's completely flat. We were able to create this profile which is running all around the interior, and it's kind of a mirror with the exterior. On the exterior you have this completely horizontal line, and as well as on the interior.
How many times, like I find a lot of times with the designers, that first sketch is right. It just comes to you and then you improve it. Is that the case with you, or does the final version of this car look completely different than the first version that you started, or is it close?
No, it looked quite different.
Quite different.
That's right. Yeah. We do a kind of 360-degree research, doing many different sketches. And when you see the very first sketches, they are a bit too heavy of lines, many lines. Yeah. And then there is this very important moment that you have to erase all the lines and keep just the main one.
Okay.
The one which will define the essence of the body.
So you designed this whole car, correct?
With the touring team, with the touring design team.
But you're the head of the team.
That's right.
So you have the final say. Because to me, the most iconic engineering design is always one person's vision. Whether it's Enzo Ferrari, Gordon Murray, Duesenberg, Bentley, you know, things designed by committee, you wind up with a Toyota Corolla. It's a nice car,
right,
but it doesn't excite, there's no passion, you know.
It's true, but when you design a car for 6 months, there is always a moment where you are a bit lost and you don't know if you are working on the right direction. And thanks to the team which is there, which get a bit the third eye, which are looking at this project and say, Louis, you should try this and this, and then they propose different solution, and together we can reach a perfect result.
Do you do it in clay first, life size, or they still do that anymore?
We don't do, it's nearly the same concept. It's not in clay, it's a foam model, which is milled.
Well, yeah, that's what I call clay.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I bet you do a life size foam,
that's right.
And then you walk around and look at it.
A scale 1 to 1, we start with a scale 1 to 4, and then we switch to a 1 to 1.
You know, it's the most intoxicating smell, this leather. You know, in America, and the Germans do it now too, when they do leather, it's got a sealer on it. So the leather is sealed, you know, even leather like hide food doesn't work on it anymore because it doesn't breathe, it seems hard. So it doesn't have that rich smell. This smells like, you know, when I used to deal in antique cars, and when I was a kid, you'd get in an older car that had leather. Oh, and that rich leather, this has that same smell.
This is, in fact, it's an old experience where everything is real, true. And when you touch this leather, you get this very special feeling. In fact, the other day I was driving the car and I surprised myself to touching the side seat, because this leather is so cool.
That's funny. Now here, there are a couple of books here. This is and this is the whole history of the company, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, these guys have just some of the beautiful cars that they have designed over the years. Just fantastic stuff. I've got a Maserati 63 3500, which was designed by you guys. Just a beautiful, beautiful car. Timeless shape, timeless design. Alfa Romeo, I mean, just all the great marks of Italy. And Touring has done literally hundreds and hundreds of cars. I mean, it's a 2-volume book, so well, check this book out. If you're a fan of coach-built cars, this is the book to have. Very, very nice. Let's see, what else can we see? Now, something unusual, you have this glass roof. This is not a sunroof, it does not open, correct?
That's right, correct.
And you have this sort of Targa looking piece here.
Yeah, in fact, when you start with the proportions, and when you get the good proportion, when the car sits very well on the road, and when you can turn off the lights and you look at the global line, it look good, then you can start making the car looking like a one-off.
Right.
That means working on these little details, like the treatment of the brushed aluminium over there, like the grille on the front fenders, like the small details on the bonnet. All these elements, in fact, when you look at them, you say, obviously, it will never be done for a mass production car.
Right.
And this gives this the feeling of a one-off car, something which expect our clients.
Now, this ratio from here to here is the same as the Maserati?
It is a bit modified. In fact, everything is a bit modified.
Yeah.
The only element which got exactly the same position as the donor car is the windscreen.
Okay.
And the rest is all a bit modified.
Yeah, well, it's just tastefully done, beautifully done. Let's come around to the back. First start with the Touring badge here. This is probably the largest one on the car, isn't it?
That's right, it's the biggest one.
And rather than just stick it on there, I love how the trunk is recessed and the badge is lowered into it. That's really beautifully done.
It's all about details.
Yeah, it really is beautifully done. I just love that. And of course, the exhaust.
There is, in fact, in the exhaust, the visor, which is a bit floating.
Right.
In fact, and it's a stupid detail, but when I drew it, I was quite happy. It looked light.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the heritage of this. And of course, you've integrated your brake light up here.
Right, exactly.
I like that rather than just, some people stick it on the glass and you see it in the rearview mirror. And I like the way it's laid in there. I really like this piece here. This just gives it a real definition.
This little offset, in fact, gives a bit of sportivity.
Yeah.
When you look at the side, in fact, it's the good way to judge the design of a car.
Right.
Is take a bit of distance. Looking at the side of the car is the most important view to judge the design. So you look at it, and if the car sits well on the road and it's a bit dynamic, let's say that 90% of the job is done. And this little detail, in fact, gives a bit of dynamism.
Yeah.
And it works very well with the cam tail. You know, when I was drawing that car, and I was thinking, let's make it super clean and cleaner and cleaner, and then I had this idea of the arrow. And if you look at the side of that car, it looked like an arrow. There is a line in the middle who cut the car, then there is this point on the front, and then all the elements which are on top or above this central line get an angle.
Yeah.
Like an arrow.
And I see a lot of history here. I see a lot of classic, I don't know if it's necessarily touring design, but like this is.
Right.
That is.
Exactly.
I mean, it has the proportions of some of the Maseratis from the 50s.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
It looks, yeah. The modern cars look sort of, I don't know, they're not beautiful. They're just functional, I guess.
Well,
this
here
is a beautiful car.
the idea was to recreate a kind of big coupe GT inspired by this proportion from the 50s, 60s, a bit like your Maserati 3500, long bonnet, small greenhouse, but a lot of lights. It's kind of invitation for journey, and then this quite long rear overhang.
What size wheels front and back? Are those 21?
I think they are 21. Yeah.
Front and back?
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, because this one proportion to me always is this proportion from here to here. That sometimes it's too high.
In fact, there is this proportion between the tire, the hole, and this little board. And these three elements are very important. It seems to be a detail, but you don't know how much we work on that kind of detail.
Well, speaking of detail, this is a huge door, which looks better. A small door would look odd. I mean, it seems proportionate. Whether from here to here to here. I mean, if this was a little door, it would look
a bit weird.
It would make the fender look too fat.
Exactly.
You know, I like the way you put it right here. It just looks like it's in exactly the right spot. And I assume it's a large door for design reasons, rather, because most gas doors now are just this thing, you know, little thing you pop up.
True, but as soon as you do a rectangular one, it has to be a bit bigger.
Right.
In this case, I'm very happy because, as you say, in terms of proportions, it works very well on that car.
Yeah.
It's also linked to this example of the arrow with. It's not a perfect rectangle.
That's what I mean. See, I love
angles.
the fact that it goes this way. If you made a rectangle, it would look.
That's right.
It would look odd. So I like the fact that it goes out and comes around. It's really you have a very good eye. You have a very good eye. It's very good. And I love this part here. These haunches. It gives it sort of a masculine. You know, to me, the best design is half masculine, half feminine. You know, like an X-Key, like a Mura. Women look at it and go, "Oh, that's beautiful." And men think it. Women think it look dainty, and men think it look muscular. And the fact that they're completely different, but they're both coming to the same conclusion. I mean, to me, that's what works. That's what I like about this here. This is my favorite piece right there, where it just sort of goes out as if it's got, you know.
I really like when the shape is shown by the highlights.
Yeah.
And not by the crease. In this case, in fact, when you see the surface, as you say, is super clean, but if you see the highlights, it shows the power. One great thing is when you drive the car, you look in the mirror, and then you see these shoulders.
Right, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And this would be a fun car to take candid pictures of and put them out and have people figure out. It's like the blind man and the elephant, you know what I mean? You can't, this doesn't look like it belongs to a car that looks like this, but when you put it all together, it works, you know? Cool. Can we take it for a ride?
Yes,
That would be
obviously.
fun. Let's see how it looks. I think we're getting a lot of looks on the road. Let's give this thing a shot. Get some of that aroma.
Shouldn't stop here. It's not a good way.
Ding, 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 ding. What happened? We went, the stupid comedian, American comedian, got stuck on the railroad track. Right there. Now you guys also did the first Ferrari, right?
That's right.
First
that's
Lamborghini, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
a lot of firsts.
Well, during Superleggera was a major actor in the car industry. When Ferrari wanted to create his own brand, you know, he was the race director for Alfa Romeo. Then he decided to create his own brand. He came to touring, and then we designed the very first one, and then success come with the 166, the 212, the 340. Same thing with Ferruccio Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That he wanted to create his own brand. Then he came to touring and asked for design and construction. Same thing with David Brown, that we did the DB4, DB5, well known James Bond car.
I love the DB5. I mean, it's one of my favorite because it's a grand touring car, which is what you know, people think they want a sports car, and what they really want is a grand touring car.
Right.
You know, because people go and they go, you know, it's kind of uncomfortable, and the seats are too small. I go, well, that's what you ordered. It's not. That's a sports car.
Yeah, we work for many car manufacturers since the very beginning, and even today, we still work for a car manufacturer. 2 or 3 years ago, we did this mini Superleggera for the BMW group. That was a lot of fun project, and I think they called us because they were very happy to get like another point of view on the brand. You know, Mini is a very iconic brand, and asking a coach builder, asking a carrozzeria, as we say in Italian, to get another point of view is always good. It gives fresh ideas to a brand.
Now, to people who are watching this for the first time, although we're talking about design primarily, the specs are V8, how many liter?
I think it's a 4.7.
4.7, about 450 horsepower. 8-speed box, how many? No,
I think it's a 6
speed.
Yeah.
6 speed, okay.
That's right. It's a real one, because when you change gear, you can really see the movement of the reefs.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. It drives, you can really drive it nearly like a sports car. Even if it's a Grand Coupe, it's 5 meter long.
Yeah.
It's very classic, but...
and look, the bolt's very strong.
Exactly.
Do you have more or less or the same soundproofing as you would have in the standard car?
No, the sound is a bit improved. We work on the pipes and on the exhaust system.
Right.
We have some clients which doesn't really drive them car. They take it, they buy it, and then they put it in the garage. Right. But for the one who drives it, it's important to get this feeling, because it's all about feeling. You get the sound of the engine, you get the sound of the pipe, you get this leather perfume, you get the handling.
Right.
It's a global experience.
What was the first car design that you were in charge of? Is it this, or was it? Because I know a lot of times I have so many friends that designers, and they get stuck just doing door handles or, you know, some little piece of the car. They don't get a chance to do the whole car.
I was so lucky, in fact, because when I was hired by the company in 2005, 2004 to 2005, the design wasn't existing. We had the atelier, the workshop, we got the name, but I was the very first and the only designer.
Yeah.
I was head of design as well as junior designer.
Right.
I had everything under my hands. So the very first one was a mock-up which was presented at the Concours of Elegance of Villa d'Este, which is called the A8 GCS Berlinetta. That was a kind of a business card in terms of design for us, saying that will be the continuity of touring with respect to the past, and in the same time represent the Maserati Bellagio, which is the fastback version of the Quattroporte. That was very good to show our possibility to manufacture cars. And then we designed something like one car a year, which means more or less 12, 13, 14 cars, something like that. And step by step, I built a small but very talented design studio.
And I imagine for a designer like yourself, it's more important, if not more fun, to be in a small design house. I mean, if you were part of the Volkswagen group or the General Motors or any of the, I imagine it would be a while before you would be in charge of a whole project, because there's a whole hierarchy, you know.
Well, I don't really know how it works in car manufacture, but it's true that working a very small team, and especially when you do, because it's really what we do, when you do B2C, you just have to sell the car or the design to one guy, which would be your client. You don't have to speak to marketing, to engineering, well, all these things. So it's very good for the creation.
Yeah, I imagine so. Sounds good. Now you're smiling.
I cannot stop laughing.
I know, that's the funniest.
It is. I love it.
I mean, if you're a car person, there's nothing more exciting than having a bespoke car, a car built either for you or a one-off like this. I mean, because it really is the only one, and it's a great conversation starter. And I always think of cars as like kinetic artwork. I mean, they're artwork that, you know, people draw a picture, painting on paper, and it's just one-dimensional. This now has to look good, it has to function, it has to work, it's got to look good moving, it's got to look good parked. I mean, it just has so many more elements involved in it. That's what I find so exciting about it. And now we're finally at the age where cars are being looked at as art, you know? I mean, I've been doing these talks around the country with a friend of mine where we get a bunch of streamlined cars, a bunch of cars that were, won design awards, and people come in and they look at them as art. There's Michelangelo right there, and there's a Bugatti Type 57, you know, and you're like, oh, you know, and it's fun to see them because for so many years they were just cars. You know, it's just old cars. Right. I mean, that's very pretty. You know, nobody thought of it as mobile sculpture, I guess you'd say.
And in fact, we realized something that it's better to do very small series respect to one-off, because at least it creates a very exclusive club, and you can really share with the other owner how look your car respect to mine. Even if it's exactly the same shape, you have these little details which makes a difference between number 1, number 2, number 3.
And the fun part is, in the old days, if you had a car built like this for yourself, 5-10 years later, it would sell for this much. I mean, it was just, you know, it's just an old car nobody ever heard of. You know, now the value actually rises. I mean, I see with McLaren, Ferrari, new cars go out of production, and the next day the price doubles.
That's right.
Whereas in the old days, the next day the price would drop.
That's right. But the question is, what will be the next classic? What we will present in 20 or 30 years at the Quail Concours? It will be this car built in a very, very small series. With respect to production
cars. You will be a very old man, and they'll drag you out in a wheelchair. This is the car I designed 60 years ago. And they will ask you, how'd you do it? With a pen. That's it. Now, we met before, right, in 2013.
That's right, exactly.
The Disco Volante, the Alpha. Yeah,
right.
okay.
This is a reinterpretation of one of the masterpieces made by Touring Superleggera. This car is completely hand-built in Milan. That car was presented as a world premiere in Villa d'Este, and this car won Villa d'Este this year.
He was just a child at the time. I remember, yeah. As you can see, you get a chance to see what normal cars look like next to a car like this. It really stands out. It's just an experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. And thanks for bringing this all the way from Italy. This is the first show to feature it, at least here in the United States. So we are quite honored, and it's fun to drive it, and it's just fun to take it out and just watch people's reaction. You can hear people yelling and asking what the car was, and it's really, really cool. So thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of your career. I'm sure you've got some more wonderful designs in the future.
Thank you.
Anytime you got it, bring it by here. We'll drive it.
We will.
Thank you again, my friend.
Thank you.
Grazie, grazie. Bellissimo!
Mm-hmm.